This is Reframe, the podcast from the College of Education, Health, and Society on the campus of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. To a lot of people, math is notorious for seeming like a tedious, difficult, and even a scary subject. But according to Todd Edwards, a professor of mathematics education, it doesn't have to be. His goal is to make math meaningful by connecting it to the lives of his students in ways that matter. He's also a big fan of writing, which he uses to teach the historical and cultural sides of math. Recently, we met up at a new cafe on campus to talk more about his unique approach to math education.
This is a good segue. I've been inspired by my two biggest inspirations here at Miami have been Tom Romano and Tom Petter. Both of them are really engaged their students in writing. And, I was a math major here by trade, but I love writing. I've sort of discovered my writerly self while I've been here at Miami. So both of those characters have been instrumental at helping me re-envision what writing is and how it might play a role in preparing future math teachers.
That seems almost like, I don't think most people would correlate those two, math and writing.
Yeah. I'm teaching a class called Mathematics, History, and Technology, and we're doing something new. I had this idea to author original children's picture book biographies of mathematicians. Right now, we're just in the. I'm writing a picture book as well. It's remarkable to me how much is involved in writing one of these and doing a lot of research about the mathematician. We're collaborating with a middle school classroom here at Talawanda Middle School with someone named Lori Glockner. Lori and I are writing one of the math biographies as well to model for my students. Then we're connecting middle school to sixth graders to the pre-service teachers in my class. The books have to incorporate mathematics in them in a meaningful way. So that mathematics has to be written in such a way that it honors what the mathematician did, but also honors the way that sixth graders learn. So it's really a balancing act. There's a ton of mathematics involved and math teaching involved to understand the research that the mathematician did, convey it in a way that the kids understand, then the technology of putting together the book.
That seems pretty cool. Who was the mathematician can you talk about who you chose to focus on and write about?
Yeah, for sure. The mathematician we picked is a recent Fields medalist. There is no math Nobel Prize. There's this thing called the Fields Medal. And the mathematician we're looking at won the Fields Medal. She's Iranian, was born in 1977, was born literally right before the revolution. And so her life is just an amazing one. So she grew up during that turbulent time of that change. And where do I even begin? She's such an inspiration in terms of her courage. She was told as a middle school student that she was an average math student and really discouraged from studying math for a while. And then she had a teacher in high school that helped her catch fire, helped her stoke her passion for mathematics. And so she was the first woman to come in first place in this international competition. I think it was the Mathematics Olympiad. She got a perfect score on this exam. It's unbelievable. And then so she goes on to win the Fields Medal. And then she develops breast cancer at the age of 40 and passes away. And so part of my research was looking at her funeral service. It's an hour and a half long. These people are talking about her life and how inspirational she was and so powerful. Truly pushing the boundaries of what it's possible for women to do in the world. And it transcends mathematics.
I was going to say it's about cultural acceptance too.
Yeah.
And breaking down cultural barriers. And I think that gets to the ways that it's really interesting how math can be more culturally focused, but also to the way it can be more relevant too. Like I read your story or your article about the cookie conundrum.
Yeah.
Which was after the viral news story reported that double stuffed Oreos weren't actually twice as much filled with cream filling, than actually taking that story into your class and actually testing that, which led to critical inquiry and taught rigorous data collection and statistical analysis, and in a way almost media literacy too, to not believe any viral news report that we may see. So I don't know, I feel like it's such a great way to explore such a range of concepts that aren't as dry and sterile as just breaking down numbers and equations on a whiteboard.
I mean, maybe generally that's my mission in life, is to encourage the future teachers to connect their instruction to things that matter to kids. Like when I was in school, math was often taught devoid of any context. I have to factor this polynomial, and it was sterile. It was pure. I mean, there were some appealing things in that to me because I'm kind of a geek, but it's so much more compelling when it actually matters. So that's really my goal as an instructor, is to encourage the teacher candidates to consider instruction that makes mathematics meaningful to their students. And so talking to students and figuring out what matters to them, and then building instruction based upon that.
How are some of the other ways that you do that? Obviously, the picture books are one way. The Cookie Conundrum project would be another. But are there other unique projects that you've done like that, or other ways that try to get students to connect to math in ways that matter to them?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I always ask students what they're interested in. I always try to talk to people, and if you listen to students, you quickly find out what they're interested in. You got to give them room to get out. I have to get out of the way and let students do things that matter to them. In the other class I teach, literally the pre-service teachers teach the class. We're using a high school textbook, and folks are assigned different sections from it. So they make their instruction meaningful to others. Yesterday, in the lesson that they taught, we did this, the teachers taught this lesson about Fermi questions. The Fermi question is it's like a question that on the surface seems difficult to answer. Like, I might ask a question like, how many human hairs on people's heads are there on Earth? And then, if I put every single human hair on every living human being on Earth, end to end, how many times could I wrap that around the Earth? Like something like that. The Fermi question they came up with was, how many seconds per year does the average Hamilton High School student send texts? And so you should have seen the people talking and working on this problem. And the fact that there's so many ways to attack it. How many students are at Hamilton High School? How often do they text? A lot of variables were involved, but that was something that the candidates were interested in. And the class was electric that day. But it's all because I gave them room to interpret the lesson how they wanted. They're teaching it. They're excited to teach. So let them do what they want and need to do. Give them some freedom to do it in the way that they want. Then I think they're more motivated to do and learn. I mean, what's more relevant to pre-service teachers than practicing the art of teaching and talking about it?
Yeah, and I think that I feel like a lot of people feel that math instruction, I mean, the way I went through it in grade school and high school was just a teacher who knows the information. So if you yourself understand the content and can then therefore just explain the steps to someone else, I feel like that's most people, really, their idea of where math education begins and ends. Just if you know the content, therefore then you can be a teacher.
Actually, that mentality is what creates kids that don't understand math.
That's what I wanted to ask. That's sort of how I remember math being.
Now, I'm sure you did fine in your math classes. I'm going to guess that you did fine.
I did fine to the level I got to, which was Algebra 2, which was the
Yeah.
lowest required class that I was required to take in college. But then I abandoned it. I went straight to literature, philosophy,
Yeah.
English, and all that stuff.
Because that matters. Like, man, in literature, we talk about the human condition and life and death and passion and all this stuff that matters. And how can that compete with x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0?
So math always did seem to be that scary subject. Like, oh, I'm just not naturally good at this, so I must not have the brain for it, or it doesn't come naturally for me, so
Yeah.
therefore it must not be something that I'm just not good at. And I feel like so many people like still have that mentality or perception around math. So is that just like a false way of thinking about it, or just the wrong mentality to have? Because I think a lot of people are still scared by its concepts.
Yeah, it's a false notion perpetuated by instruction that doesn't present mathematics as something that is connected to things that matter. And so that's my goal in life, is to reach folks like you through the teacher candidates.
So would you say that's one of the reasons why math is still perpetuated in that way, as that scary subject, because it was not taught very well?
For sure. That's my thought, based on my own anecdotal evidence.
Mm-hmm.
As a student whose major was initially philosophy and English.
Right. That's an interesting transition that you had to math.
I thought in philosophy, the questions were incredible, but there's no answer book. I had answers to all the odd ones in my math class.
Right. There is that definitiveness to it that, in math you can actually get answers.
I think it's possible to marry the best parts of English and philosophy with math. And that's really the whole middle childhood philosophy, is integrating content together and making connections. And I think what's good for a kid in 6th grade is good for an adult as well. I think we all seek connections as human beings, and the teaching of math deserves that sort of respect too.